And they spent the day with Harris when he was CEO of the corporation. And so they were thrilled to have Harris with them. And they were excited to continue the day with him, and I said, well, we have to go back to the office, and I got to go through your files. They didn't like me very much at the time, but later that night, we were in Bozeman, Montana. We ended up going to we were at the Big Sky Resort, and we ended up having dinner, and Harris was just fantastic with all of us. And the next day was Easter Sunday, and actually Harris and I skied all day on Easter Sunday, and we went up we did the greens all day, the green slopes, and then I thought maybe the blue slope might be a good opportunity for us. And it was also Harris's birthday at the same time. So Easter Sunday, on his birthday, we did the blue, which wasn't that much different than the green, but it was challenging for Harris, and I was afraid I was going to get fired for suggesting such that. And I thought, why would I do that? So and the whole time, we were visiting with the governor of Montana on Monday, and then Harris was going to be going on to Utah and Idaho, which were other states of mine that I was the program officer for, and got the opportunity to. I kept thinking, gosh, I really need to tell him all these things about all these states, and but at the same time, he was having a very good time, and I kind of got the sense that maybe I should not, inundate him with all this information. So, so we drove to Helena at the end of the day in Bozeman, full day of skiing, and it was Easter Sunday. As I said, there was nothing open in Helena, and we hadn't had dinner, and even the gas stations were closed. And so when we got to the hotel, they looked at us like we were crazy when we asked if there were any restaurants open. So fortunately, the Montana Commission had left a gift basket of food for Harris. Nuts and cheese and crackers. And so Harris called me and invited me to come share the basket. And as we're having the nuts and the cheese, he asked me, there might be some things you might want to share with me about the upcoming days we have. And so I got to share with him all the important things that were happening. And as I left after I left, after a good conversation and briefing him about all the good things that were going on in the States, he came out of his room as I was on my way down the elevator, and he said, Tom, you're doing an outstanding job. And I went back to my room, and I called my parents. And it was one of my professional highlights. Anyway, we're honored to have you here tonight, Harris. And quickly, I'll say, as a former U.S. Senator for Pennsylvania, Chair of America's Promise, CEO of the Corporation for National Community Service, and Special Assistant for President John F. Kennedy, Harris has dedicated much of his life to making citizen service a common expectation and experience for all Americans. I'm so grateful for Senator Wofford's support in state service commissions and partnership in expanding national service and building champions for national service. I'm honored to present Harris with the 20th anniversary of AmeriCorps and the 2014 Friend of Ask Award.
Thank you, Tom. You didn't succeed in ending my intermediate skiing career, but the Rocky Mountain Service Corps did. They got me going down a black trail, and they would swoop down, the two founders, and pick my hand up and hope that I'd stay on skis again. My spirit did, but my knees didn't. That was in Taos. It's a rather hard run. So for all of us, the run of national service has been a hard run. It's also the most fun one in my life, and this is one award that I accept. It's for being a friend of the service commissions, and that is so easy to be and so important. Now, when Wendy was talking, I said, I know what I need to say about Wendy, aside from thank you for the 20th anniversary celebration and your role all the way from the White House to all around this country, and what you did with the mayors in the last few years, and the governors one by one, and Republicans and Democrats in Congress. I remember that after Rick Santorum succeeded in retiring me from the Senate by a narrow margin, but beaten me, how many people said to me, if Claire, my wife of 50 years, if Claire had been the candidate, she would have won. And I was thinking, Wendy, if you had been CEO when I was called in to help save AmeriCorps, and in these years, the imagination, the drive, the spirit, the contagious quality that you carry with you shows what one person can do. And I think that we would be far, far ahead if we had had your leadership earlier. But it's not too late, as you've just shown. We've shown. And of course, I say of course, to me it is so obvious that with the House of Representatives stalled for as long as I can see on things like this, and the battle here is going to be a very hard one through the Congress of the United States, and we've got to try to win it. But where are the forces that everybody could feel in terms of what happened around the country on the 20th anniversary? I think that more than ever, the governors and mayors can have a role to play in the next decade that can be very crucial to this. They're closer to what your programs, our programs, do. Secondly, they are closer to the independent sector that's going to have to rise even further than it has in funding service years for people that need that kind of support, which we all, I think, have that in common. We think that the country needs it, and the younger generation needs it. The older generation does too, in what they can do. I should tell you that after Mitt Romney, that George Romney was the one who got had the idea of the summit and of all the living presidents and what they could do together. And he had the vision that led to the summit in Philadelphia and to America's promise. Well, we saw those presidents together, two of them here, and George W.'s and Laura's remarkable video, which you message, that I hope everybody hears. It warmed my heart, and it isn't that I've agreed with him on everything, but he got a lot done for the expansion of AmeriCorps and for the Peace Corps and what internationally we could do in Africa. And George H.W. was, with Points of Light, one of our first champions. And the only thing that he said that is holding him back from really endorsing us strongly was he had to make sure that his two sons, who were, one was governor of Texas and the other was Mitt Romney, were ready and willing and supporting. And so we've got two of the great families, but we've got you. And I said to Mitt Romney when he had finished helping save the Olympics in Denver. We gave him some National Service Award for supporting the city year and national service from the very early years. And I said, you know, what we need is a kind of Olympics of service, where the forces of service, the creative inventions of service, Jennifer knows the whole, the people manning the voices for national service know, as Wendy does, as the office, as Bill does, as so many of you that I know well what invention has gone into these programs. I don't know how quite you would do it, but tonight I had that feeling as you gave the awards that when Mitt chose to run for governor instead of that, he sounded quite interested in the idea of a National Olympics of service. Special Olympics, of course, does it for one constituency that vitally needed attention like that. I went to him up in Massachusetts after he won the election as governor and said, well, why not try it in Massachusetts? And he said, that's a very good idea. He said, I'll be ready to do it when I've gone through the hardest work I've ever had, which is cutting our budget in every corner I can find. And he didn't do it. But this is a little version of it, as we heard what the award winners do, and every one of you in this room is a winner in that sense. And I asked Adam what I should say in the short message. And he said, well, what you said last night. And I tried to think what I said last night. In the first place, one of the things I said was that my wife was asked, how can you endure hearing Harris again? And Tom and Adam and others who've heard me for quite a while know what went behind that question. The cracking the atom of Civic Tower, the twin engines, and a few things you may have heard over time. As I was talking last night, I remembered my wife's answer was that she could endure it, hearing me again, if I said one new thing. And I tried to think what would have been the new thing last night. And you've talked about Senator Hatch, and that reminded me of Senator Bennett and the prayer breakfast some years ago, when I was asked, at the time when I was leading the discussion, what was it, and when and how did you get hooked on this idea that all Americans, as part of their education as citizens, should have a year of service asked of them and offered them? And I had never been really sort of asked that way, I think. And it really took me a couple of minutes, a couple of breathing times anyway, to say, well, I think for sure it was on the student ship to Europe in 1947, when there was this group of young men, well-dressed, you can't believe it, but were wearing ties on the sort of a raunchy student ship going to Europe, and they were singing night and day, beautifully, loudly, proudly. And I said, well, what are you up to? And he said, we're Mormons. And when a young Mormon comes of age, it's not a question of, will you do service? It's a question of, where will you do your service? And we're a group that wants to go to Europe, that's been devastated, and try to help. And I said to the woman I was pursuing successfully to marry, that's what should happen in America. And I believe that even is more strongly today, as I look at the problems of our country and the possibilities. that are in your hands to turn not only my words, but the words we've heard tonight and the words that we're following, turn them into action, words turning into flesh. And you look pretty good to me, and I look forward to continuing the struggle with the kind of initiative that these other winners have demonstrated. From my point of view, this is a room full of winners. Thank you.